Igris. Igris holds a special place in solo leveling as Jinwoo's very first shadow extraction. Long before becoming Jinwoo's loyal shadow, Igris served the shadow monarch Ashborn during his ancient war against the rulers. When Ashborn decided to step down and find a human successor, he tasked Igris with testing the successor in battle when the time came. Jinwoo extracted Igris using his shadow extraction skill by appealing to the knight's strong sense of loyalty. After 2 consecutive failed attempts, Jinwoo successfully extracted Igris' shadow. Finding Igris' original name too long and cumbersome, it was Blood Red Commander Igris. Jinwoo decided to stick with Igris instead. While he started as Jinwoo's strongest shadow, Igris eventually got overshadowed by Tusk and later by Beru. However, when Jinwoo became the new Shadow Monarch, Igris unlocked his true powers, jumping 2 ranks from Elite Knight to Marshal Grade, making him one of Jinwoo's most powerful soldiers. As a Marshal Grade shadow, Igris is a force to be reckoned with. Even the Frost Monarch Silad admitted that Igris was more dangerous than ever after regaining his full strength. Jinwoo's son, Sung Suho, also holds Igris in high regard, recognizing him as an extraordinary being. Back in Ashborn's army, Igris was known as one of the 2 wings of the Shadow Legion, a title that reflects his incredible skill and status. Aside from the basic powers innate to Shadow soldiers such as regeneration, infiltration, and transformation, Igris is also a master swordsman with eons of battle experience, making him the most skilled blade wielder in Jinwoo's army. He's also a beast in hand-to-hand combat, and during his first fight with Jinwoo, he nearly won until Jinwoo got in a lucky surprise attack. His physical strength is insane, as shown when he held off the Frost Monarch long enough for Jinwoo to return to the battlefield. On top of that, Igris is lightning fast and agile, using an acrobatic fighting style that lets him blitz opponents with unmatched speed. He even has some telekinetic abilities, like moving and controlling objects from a distance. Igris has a chivalrous and respectful personality, always kneeling to Jinwoo after finishing a fight. One of his funniest quirks is his habit of bringing back the heads of his defeated enemies to Jinwoo, a tradition that eventually got annoying when Iron started copying him. Igris doesn't tolerate Iron's antics and often looks visibly annoyed when Iron goes too far in battle. Despite being a battle-hardened warrior, Igris values education, as seen when he argued with Bellion that Suho should focus on studying rather than fighting. He's also fond of Suho, taking pride in the boy when he surpassed and defeated him during training. Tank. Tank was the next big shadow Jinwoo added to his crew. It all went down when Jinwoo entered what he thought was a regular C-rank gate, only to find out it was a red gate, a way more dangerous trap. Red gates are no joke since they're usually at least B rank, and once you're inside, you're completely cut off from the outside world. The only way out is to either kill the dungeon boss or wait for the gate to collapse, which isn't ideal. While navigating the red gate, Jinwoo came across a pack of ice bears. Among them was their leader, a massive, scarred beast that radiated power. Jinwoo called on Igris, who made quick work of the bear, giving Jinwoo the chance to turn it into a shadow. That's how Tank was born. As a Knight Grade shadow, Tank is no pushover, as he's about as strong as an A-rank hunter. He's shown just how powerful he is by tearing through a horde of demons like they were nothing and taking down a Naga in a single hit. As an ice bear, Tank fights like you'd expect. Pure animalistic fury, ripping through enemies with his teeth and claws. But don't let his beastly style fool you. Tank's got some brains too. He proved this when he teamed up with Iron to take down one of Kagalgan's generals, showing he's more than just brute force. Iron. Iron's story is a mix of betrayal, redemption, and his signature dim-witted antics. Originally, he was Kim Chol, an A-rank hunter from the White Tiger Guild. During the Red Gate incident, Kim Chol made himself the leader and split the party into 2 groups. He led the stronger group to take down the dungeon boss, leaving Jinwoo in charge of the weaker hunters who stayed behind for safety. Things went south fast. Kim Chol's squad got wiped out, while Jinwoo's group survived unharmed. Furious and jealous, Chol tried to backstab Jinwoo while he was in the middle of fighting the dungeon boss, Baruka. Turns out it was a big mistake as Igris popped out of Jinwoo's shadow and skewered Chol with his sword. Realizing Jinwoo had seen through his plan, Chol cursed him one last time before dying. Jinwoo needed more help to finish off Baruka, wasted no time extracting Chol's shadow and naming him Iron. Now a loyal shadow, Iron helped Jinwoo take down Baruka, smashing the ice elf into the ground with his battle axe. As an elite Knight Grade shadow, Iron became as strong as an S-rank hunter. He proved his strength by taking out a giant with a single headshot and effortlessly dragging the massive head of Vulcan with one hand. Iron also developed a taunting skill called Shout of Provocation, forcing enemies to attack him recklessly, though it doesn't work on anyone stronger than him. Despite his power, Iron kept his dim-witted personality, and his role in the story stayed pretty minor. After the second Double Dungeon incident, he ranked up to Elite Knight grade, but this time as a shadow was cut short when the Cup of Reincarnation rewrote history, erasing him entirely. In the revised timeline, Kim Chol was reborn with no memory of his previous life or death. Decades later, he regained his power and became a hunter again, only to unknowingly fall under the control of the Itarim. This eventually forced Jinwoo's son Suho to kill him and turn him into a shadow soldier once more, bringing Iron back full circle. Tusk. Tusk started off as Kargalgan, a High Orc shaman Jinwoo faced during the Demon Castle arc. This arc kicks off when Jinwoo takes on a quest to raid a hidden dungeon in the Demon Castle. In his original form, Tusk was a beast of an opponent, wielding powerful magic and shamanistic skills that made him a real challenge. After taking him down, Jinwoo tried to extract his shadow, but it wasn't easy. Tusk's strong will caused multiple failed attempts before Jinwoo finally succeeded and added him to his shadow army. As a shadow, Tusk kept his magic and shaman abilities, making him one of Jinwoo's most valuable soldiers. At Elite Knight grade, Tusk is on par with an S-rank hunter. He's shown his raw power by obliterating hundreds of demons with a single fire spell and taking out a giant in just one hit. While most of Jinwoo's shadows rely on physical combat, Tusk brings a unique edge with his focus on devastating magic attacks. Tusk has a wide array of spells categorized under hymns, each with a different effect. For example, Hymn of Protection creates a shield around himself or an ally. Hymn of the Fire Dragon blasts a massive fire beam from his mouth. Hymn of Agony curses a target with intense pain. Hymn of Frenzy weakens an enemy's defense while making them take more damage. Hymn of Combustion causes enemies to spontaneously combust or explode. And Hymn of Giants makes Tusk grow to a massive size using mana. And that's just a taste of his abilities. Tusk can also levitate targets, either pinning them in place or smashing them into the ground repeatedly until they break. His versatility in battle, thanks to these hymns, makes him a key player in Jinwoo's army. Eventually, Tusk earns a promotion to Marshal Grade, one of the highest ranks in the Shadow Army. This upgrade is proof of how powerful and important he is, solidifying his spot as one of Jinwoo's top shadows. Kaisel. Kaisel is the shadow of Kaiselin, a wyvern that Demon King Baran used as his battle mount. After an epic fight, Jinwoo took down Baran while Iron handled Kaiselin. When the dust settled, Jinwoo extracted the wyvern shadow and named it Kaisel since he couldn't remember the original name. Kaisel's role in Jinwoo's army is pretty straightforward. He's not a fighter, just a reliable ride. Because of this, Jinwoo rarely summoned him unless he needed to travel by air and couldn't use shadow exchange. While Kaisel didn't get much screen time, he was Jinwoo's go-to for flying across the battlefield or reaching places in style. Beru. Beru is the shadow of the Ant King. Back when he was the Ant King, his strength was equal to or even greater than S-rank hunters. He wiped the floor with Goto Ryuji, Japan's strongest hunter, and obliterated several hunters so badly they called him unbeatable. Arrogant and always hungry for a fight, Beru thought he was untouchable, until he met Jinwoo, who completely outclassed him in both strength and speed, ultimately killing him and turning him into a shadow. Beru was unique from the start. Up until chapter 167, he was the only shadow that could talk. When he first spoke to Jinwoo and asked for a name, Jinwoo went with Beru and sent him off to finish wiping out the ant colony. As a Marshal Grade shadow and former Ant King, Beru became one of the most powerful members of Jinwoo's army. Beru isn't just about brute strength, he's got some other crazy versatile abilities. He can absorb the skills and knowledge of those he consumes, fly at insane speeds using his wings, and adapt his combat style by growing larger for more strength or compressing himself for agility. He also spits a ridiculously deadly poison using his bladed tongue. It's so toxic that it kills almost instantly. After absorbing other people's powers, he becomes a master healer, saving Jinho from the brink of death and even patching himself up after sparring with Jinwoo. And he can temporarily boost someone's stats, though it comes at the cost of their sanity. Outside of battle, Beru's loyalty to Jinwoo is unshakable, and he's even got a softer, more humorous side. He's hilariously obsessed with Korean period dramas, which gave him a dramatic and old-fashioned way of talking. Beru is also super fond of Jinwoo's son, Suho, and was completely won over by the boy's innocence and fascination with him. He was heartbroken when he found out Suho would have to forget about him to live a normal life. Jima. Jima is the shadow of Boss Naga. Jinwoo ran into this massive magical beast during an Ajin guild raid. At first, the hunters were completely outmatched. The thing was insanely strong and had powerful magic to back it up. With its trident and huge snake-like body, Jima looked like something straight out of a sea monster story. The team was in way over their heads, but then Jinwoo stepped up. Not only did he take the beast down, but he also turned it into one of his shadow minions. After the fight, Jinwoo found out Jima also possesses size manipulation ability, which means it could use mana to massively increase its size. This made Jima an elite Knight Grade shadow, putting it on par with your average S-rank hunter. Greed. Greed used to be the shadow of Hwang Dongsoo, a powerful S-rank hunter from the Scavenger Guild. Hwang had it out for Jinwoo because he suspected him of killing his brother, and that hatred ran deep. To get back at Jinwoo, Hwang kidnapped Jinho, Jinwoo's right-hand man, and dragged him to some abandoned factory. But Jinwoo used his shadow soldiers to track Hwang down in no time and teleported there using shadow exchange. Right after Jinwoo had taken down Thomas Andre, he killed Hwang as payback for torturing Jinho, extracted his shadow, and named it Greed. When they got back to Korea, Jinwoo even gave Greed a harsh first lesson by making him bow to the ground. As a general grade shadow, Greed's one of the heavy hitters in Jinwoo's army. The dude is so strong he broke out of the Frost Monarch's ice prison just by flexing his biceps. Later, when the rulers used the Cup of Reincarnation at Jinwoo's request, a new timeline was created where magic beasts never existed. In this version of events, Hwang never became a hunter or got killed by Jinwoo. Decades down the line, though, Hwang regained his powers and became a hunter again. Unfortunately for him, he ended up becoming a servant of the Iterim. This forced Il Hwang to kill him and led Jinwoo's son Suho to turn Hwang into a shadow soldier once more. Bellion. Bellion is the only shadow Jinwoo didn't have to fight, and that's because he was one of Ashborn's final gifts for the Monarch War. Back in the day, Bellion served Ashborn, the Shadow Monarch, as one of the top leaders in his army. But when Ashborn chose Jinwoo as his successor, Bellion and the rest of the Shadow Army pledged their loyalty to their new master without hesitation. Not long after Jinwoo took down the three monarchs who came after him, Bellion and Ashborn's original Shadow Army made a dramatic entrance into the human world through a massive gate in Seoul. The Korean Hunters Association panicked, thinking it was a global-level threat requiring every S-rank hunter. Later, Bellion proves his worth as the Grand Marshal by effortlessly beating Beru in a sparring match while also cementing his reputation as the strongest shadow in existence. He's crazy fast and insanely strong. Plus, he's got some serious skills with a sword, though Igris is technically better at swordsmanship. Bellion also excels with whips, as shown when he casually trapped Beru during their spar. Oh, and he can fly at high speeds thanks to his wings. Bellion is a lifelong warrior who thinks combat skills are everything. This belief led to him clashing with Igris about whether Suho should be learning to fight instead of going to school. Despite his tough demeanor, Bellion has a soft spot for Suho and was super proud when Suho beat him in a fight. As the Grand Marshal, Bellion takes his role seriously. He even promised Jinwoo that if Iron ever came back to the ranks and showed disrespect, he'd personally handle the discipline. Kamish. Kamish was the big boss of the very first S-rank gate that ever showed up. Back in the day, he was one of Antares' loyal servants, the King of Dragons, and the strongest monarch. During the first war against the rulers, Kamish was captured and had an essence stone stuck inside him. Fast forward eons, and when the first S-rank gate opened in America, Kamish came storming out, destroying the entire West Coast and wiping out hundreds of S-rank hunters. His rampage only ended when the last 5 surviving hunters teamed up and finally took him down. After his death, Kamish's body was claimed by the American government and preserved exactly as it was when he fell. Fast forward about 8 years, and Jinwoo got permission from the FBH to see Kamish's corpse. Jinwoo managed to revive him as a shadow, but it wasn't easy. It took 2 tries since Kamish has been dead for so long. When Kamish came back as a shadow, he immediately spotted the humans behind Jinwoo and tried to blast them with his dragon breath. Jinwoo had to step in, order him to stop, and explain that he wasn't under the ruler's control anymore. Kamish quickly calmed down, bowed to Jinwoo, and revealed that he'd once served Antares. As a general grade shadow, Kamish was no joke. He had Dragon Sphere, a mana-infused roar that could send anyone weaker than him into a state of pure panic, and Dragon's Breath, where he could shoot devastating fireballs. But sadly, because he'd been dead for so long, his body started to crumble soon after his revival. Knowing his time was running out, Kamish warned Jinwoo about 4 humans he knew who'd been granted power by the rulers and told him to watch out for them. Before he completely dissolved, Kamish expressed regret that he couldn't serve Jinwoo longer as one of his shadow soldiers. It was a short but unforgettable moment. Min Byung-gu. Min Byung-gu was a Korean S-rank healer and part of the Jeju Island raid team. During the raid, he was the ultimate support, boosting his teammates' stats and healing them in the heat of battle. Sadly, things took a dark turn when he was killed by the Ant King, who consumed his head and absorbed his healing powers. After Jinwoo took down the Ant King, he brought Byung-gu back as a shadow soldier to heal Cha Hae-in, who was on the verge of death from her injuries. Once Cha was healed, Jinwoo honored Baek's request to let Byung-gu rest in peace and released his soul. Due to Jinwoo resetting time with the Cup of Reincarnation, Byung-gu's death was undone. In this new timeline, he started out as a university instructor teaching Korean history, then shifted to medicine and became a doctor. When Beru was summoned, Byung-gu almost had a full-blown panic attack at the sight of the ant who devoured his head in the previous timeline. Beru recognized him too, felt sorry, and gave Byung-gu a blessing of protection. It couldn't restore all his S-rank healer powers, as those had been absorbed into Beru's essence, but it did awaken Byung-gu as a C-rank healer. Despite his awakening, Byung-gu chose not to join a guild or become a hunter. Instead, he decided his talents were better suited for research, carving out a meaningful life in the revised timeline. Ant Queen. The Ant Queen was the boss of the Jeju Island S-rank gate and the mother of the Ant King. After Jinwoo took down the Ant King and turned him into a shadow soldier named Beru, he figured he'd try extracting the Ant Queen's shadow too. But to his surprise, her shadow was way weaker than he expected. Curious, Jinwoo asked Beru why, and Beru explained that the Ant Queen wasn't much of a fighter. Her main ability was reproduction, which obviously didn't translate into shadow form since shadows don't have physical bodies. Once Jinwoo realized this, he decided it wasn't worth keeping her shadow and terminated the extraction. Suho's Shadow Soldiers, Solo Leveling Ragnarok. In the latest chapters of the sequel series Solo Leveling Ragnarok, Suho has stored up to 10 Shadow Soldiers using his Shadow Storage skill. Some familiar faces from the original story make up his roster, including Kwe, Shadow of Lee Min-sung, Kira, Shadow of Kang Tae-shik, Sita, Shadow of Siddharth Bachchan, Iron, Shadow of Kim Chol, and Greed, Shadow of Hwang Dongsoo. The rest of Suho's Shadow Squad, which debuted in Ragnarok, include Mino, a Minotaur Shadow, Tao, another Minotaur Shadow, Harmakan, Gordon, Shadow of Naga Gordon, and Brocky.